Before you were born, someone already told a story about you. They told it thousands of years ago, in a language you've never spoken, in a world you've never visited. And depending on which story they told, you are either a slave, a mystery, or the most intentional thing in the universe. Today, we go back to the beginning. Not just one beginning, we'll take a look at some of the oldest stories about the beginning. Now, you're probably wondering, why does this matter? These are ancient stories, old myths. What does a clay tablet from 3,000 years ago have to do with your life today? Everything. Every civilization that has ever existed has tried to answer the same two questions. Where did the world come from? And what are human beings for? Those aren't small questions. They are the questions. Because how you answer them shapes how you see yourself on a hard day. Whether you believe your life means something or nothing at all. And here is the strange part. Most of us answer those questions with ourselves at the center. We insist the story is about us. But what if we can't make sense of our lives precisely because we're not the main character? What if we are something more surprising, supporting actors in a story far larger than we imagined? 3 of the oldest answers to those questions are still alive today, still shaping billions of people without them even knowing it. 1 comes from ancient Babylon, 1 from ancient India, 1 from the ancient Hebrew scriptures, Genesis. These aren't the only stories, there are many, but these let us see something clearly, the kinds of answers humanity has reached for, and what those answers do to the people who live inside them. Let's hear them. The oldest written creation story we've ever found comes from ancient Babylon. It's called the Enuma Elish, carved into clay tablets around 1200 BC. It begins with 2 gods at war. From that war, the world is made. The winning god takes the body of his defeated enemy and splits her open like a fish. Her top half becomes the sky. Her bottom half becomes the earth. You are standing on the corpse of a dead god right now. Then he takes the blood of another defeated rebel, mixes it with clay, and shapes the first human beings. Why? To do the service of the gods, to attend to the needs of the gods. That's it. You were made from violence and dirt so the gods wouldn't have to work. You were not a treasure. You were not a choice. You were an afterthought in a story about power. Now we travel east, ancient India. Around 1500 BCE, one of the oldest collections of sacred writing ever assembled was taking shape, the Rig Veda. Buried inside it, a hymn called the Nasadiya Sukta, the hymn of creation. It doesn't tell you where the universe came from. It admits that nobody knows. The gods came afterwards with the creation of this universe. Who then knows whence it has arisen? The gods arrived after the universe. They didn't make it. They woke up to find it already here. And then the hymn asks about the one being above all the gods, the highest power, the one who might know. Only he knows, or perhaps he does not know. That is radical honesty and possibly a bit frightening. A sacred text that looks at existence itself and refuses to pretend it has the answer because it does not have the answer. So here is where we stand. If you came from violence, you were made to serve. If you came from mystery, you exist inside a question no one can fully answer. Both of those stories are alive in the world right now, shaping how billions of people understand themselves. But there is a third story, and it changes everything. Genesis tells a different story, not carved into a monument to a warrior god, not whispered as a hymn of honest uncertainty, written as a calm, steady, unshakable declaration. In the beginning, God. God created the heavens and the earth. No battle, no body, no blood mixed into clay, just a voice speaking into nothing and something appearing. Notice what is missing from that sentence. There is no enemy, no war, no conflict driving the creation forward. God doesn't make the world because he needs something from it. He makes it because he chooses to. That is not a small detail. That is everything. The account moves with a rhythm, day by day, order arising out of nothing, and after each step, a verdict. Light, good. Water, good. Land, good. Living things, good. You're probably asking, why does that word keep appearing? Why does Genesis need to tell us over and over that what God made was good? Because the world it was written into didn't believe that. The Babylonians believed the world was made from a corpse. The universe, to them, was the wreckage of a cosmic war. Of course it was violent. Of course it was brutal. That's what it was made of. Genesis says, no. The world came from goodness. It was made by goodness, and it was declared good before a single human being ever set foot in it. Then the account slows down. The rhythm changes. Something is about to happen that is different from everything before it. Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. Every other ancient creation story made human beings to fit a need, to serve, to labor, to make the gods comfortable. You were useful, but never valued, necessary, but never named. Genesis says something the ancient world had almost never heard. You were made to reflect something, to carry an image, not the image of a warrior god who needed workers, the image of a being who makes things good, who is good, and decided that you would carry that into the world. You are not an afterthought. You are not an accident. You are not a question without an answer. You are the image of the one who made everything. And when creation was finally complete, when human beings stood in the world for the very first time, Genesis doesn't reach for the same word it used for everything else. It doesn't say good. It says very good. That is not a coincidence. That is a statement. The Enuma Elish builds to a king. The Nasadiya Sukta builds to a question. Genesis builds to a person, to you. The whole account moves toward that moment, the first human face, and then declares that this is what makes everything complete. That is a radically different story, and it has radically different consequences. If you came from violence, the world is a battleground. Power wins. Everyone else serves. If you came from mystery, the world is beautiful but uncertain. You live inside it, wondering. But if you came from intention, if a good God made a good world and placed you inside it on purpose, then you are not a product of chaos. You are not an unanswered question. Your life is not an accident waiting to be explained. You are a reflection of something eternal. These are not dusty historical footnotes. These stories are alive, right now, today. Most people have never heard of the Enuma Elish. Most people couldn't name the Nasadiya Sukta, but they are living inside one of these stories, whether they know it or not, whether they chose it or not. This series exists because the Genesis story, the one that says you are made on purpose in the image of something good, deserves to be examined, honestly, carefully, without pretending that other stories don't exist. Imagine if your life was embedded in the greatest story ever told. Not one you invented, not one where you are the hero, but one you were placed inside with a purpose. Because if it's true, if the story is actually true, it doesn't just change what you believe on a Sunday morning. It changes who you think you are on a Tuesday afternoon when nothing is going right and you're wondering if any of it matters. We're just getting started. In the beginning, God, His story, and we live inside it. That might not feel comforting, not yet. It depends entirely on what kind of God you think He is. And it was good, very good.